Hello and welcome to New Haven's Union Station. Today we are going to be taking a ride up to Hartford on Amtrak's Hartford line, or is it CT Rail's Hartford line? Well, technically, it's both. New Haven's Union Station is by far one of my favorite mid-sized stations in the US. Opened to the public in 1920, this current Union Station is actually the third major station to serve New Haven. The first was built in 1848, with the second taking over in 1879. The second station was unfortunately destroyed in a fire in May of 1918, with the current station being built to take its place. Stepping through the front doors, we find the reason why this station is so amazing: the main hall. The main hall is truly stunning, with its high ceiling, massive arched windows, numerous globe lights, and marble furnishings. New Haven Union Station brings passengers back to the good old days of rail travel in the United States. The center of the space is dominated by benches for waiting passengers, while the outer walls feature ticket machines for Metro North, Amtrak, and CT Rail, plus numerous shops and restaurants. At either end of the hall are two massive archways which guide passengers in and out of Union Station. The arch on the north end of the station houses the station clock and the two massive departure boards. One of my personal favorite additions to the station are the model trains situated at the center of each bench, with each train representing a different period in the New Haven Railroad's vast history. Meandering over to the north end of the station, we can look up at the massive departure boards. Scanning the list, we find that our train, Amtrak Hartford line number 460, is still running on time, with an estimated departure of 11 a.m. Now, our train may not be leaving for another 25 minutes, but because Hartford line trains only operate with 2 cars, I decided that now was the time to head out to track 2 so I could guarantee that we had a window seat for our ride up north. Normally, Hartford line trains are operated with 1 Amfleet coach, 1 Metroliner cab car, and 1 P42 DC for power. However, today, our train was a P42 DC sandwich, with locomotive 99 on the front and 87 on the rear. I was really hoping to get some cab view shots out of our lead Metroliner, but that second P42 meant no views for me. Stepping on board, the plot thickened even further, as it turns out that the Metroliner cab car was closed for seating. This not only meant that even without a second P42, we wouldn't have been able to enjoy a cab ride. This also meant that our train was now operating as a single coach, which makes our decision to board early even more valuable. Finding an empty row, we can get seated for our quick ride up north. Temperatures around the northeast corridor had been at or below freezing for quite some time. Just as we were getting comfortable, the first few snowflakes began to fall, a sign of weather to come as we moved farther north. Before we get underway, let's take a look at our route up to Hartford. Our ride up north begins heading northeast out of New Haven, breaking off of the northeast corridor past State Street and up the banks of the Quinnipiac River. Our train cruises on through North Haven, making stops in Wallingford and Meriden before passing Beaver Pond and Silver Lake. Berlin is our penultimate station, crossing over Route 9 and into the Hartford suburbs a few minutes later. Track speed slow on our final approach, pulling into Connecticut's capital city and Hartford's Union Station. We'll cover a total of 36 miles between New Haven and Hartford today, with a travel time of 45 minutes. The clock strikes 11 a.m. and our train departs New Haven, with one of Amtrak's Northeast Regionals passing us by as we make our way out of the station. State Street is our first stop only 2 minutes later. The ride between State Street and Union Station is the shortest on the entirety of Amtrak's network and costs passengers only $1 per ride. If you haven't seen the full video on that ridiculous adventure, then I highly recommend you check it out. Links will be in the top right or in the description below. Departing State Street, our train crosses the final mile on the northeast corridor. Once past I-91, the Hartford line splits to head north, while the corridor tracks continue east across the Quinnipiac River. Seating on Amtrak's Hartford line is the same coach seating you'll find most anywhere on Amtrak's network. These coach seats provide around 4 inches between my knees and the seatback, with a bit of additional space beneath the next seat to stretch out or store personal belongings. The usual mesh seatback pocket is in good condition and easily holds my full-size water bottle, charger, and the safety information card for our Amfleet 1 coach. Tray tables can be found stowed in the seatback and fold down easily by releasing the latch. Above each row are 2 lights controlled by the buttons in between. The usual 2 outlets are found just below the window. For those carry-on bags that don't fit beneath the seats, luggage racks can be found above either side of the train. They're quite deep and far enough from the ceiling to accommodate even the largest of suitcases. With only 2 coaches and 2 P42s, it takes almost no time for our train to get up to speed. The Hartford line is one of only a handful of higher speed lines in the US, with our train initially peaking at 90 miles an hour. This may seem fast, but our real top speed is yet to come. As we make our way up the Hartford line, why not hit that subscribe button? It's totally free and it really helps support the channel. And hit that bell icon while you're down there to be notified whenever a new video goes live. Wallingford is our first stop outside of New Haven. Station stops on the Hartford line are incredibly quick, with each station taking just over a minute. To facilitate these quick stops, the crew would make an announcement asking that passengers make their way to the exit well before we arrived at each station. Unsurprisingly, the minute-long stops ended up catching out a few passengers who missed their station entirely because there just wasn't enough time to start moving towards an exit once the train had already stopped. Heading out of Wallingford, we pass a southbound CT rail train. CT Rail's trains also run under the Hartford Line banner, which brings up a question: is the Hartford Line an Amtrak or CT Rail service? The Hartford Line was started as an inner-city service by the New Haven Railroad in the mid-1800s to early 1900s. This line, deemed the inland route, saw trains running from New York to Boston via Springfield, Massachusetts. When Amtrak was founded in 1971, the inland route was no longer in service, but Penn Central still operated trains on the New Haven to Springfield line. Amtrak eventually took hold of the line in 1976 and continued operating trains between the two cities under the shuttle service name. The line remained fairly unchanged through the late 1900s and early 2000s, with a total of 4 shuttle services, plus the Vermonter and 1 or 2 Northeast regional services daily. It's once we hit 2015 where things start to get interesting. The Connecticut Department of Transportation, or ConnDOT, began making moves for a commuter rail service between New Haven and Springfield. Instead of building their own line, ConnDOT decided it would be easier to run trains on the existing Amtrak Hartford line. ConnDOT's commuter service was designed to integrate in with Amtrak's shuttle service timetable, adding 8 weekday round trips. Service opened on June 16th of 2018 with a total of 18 weekday round trips on the line between Amtrak and ConnDOT, with that number later upped to 20 with the addition of the Valley Flyer. Amtrak dropped the shuttle name in 2019, with Amtrak and CT Rail trains now operating under the same Hartford Line name. In short, the Hartford Line is both an Amtrak and a CT Rail service. Tickets cost the same on both operators and will get you between New Haven and Springfield in relatively the same amount of time. Individually, Amtrak and CT Rail would have created a lackluster connection between the Northeast Corridor and Central Connecticut and Massachusetts. It's only together that they create an efficient and effective commuter rail corridor. Meriden is our next pit stop, the snowfall picking up the farther north we ride. Beaver Pond and Silver Lake come into view outside of Meriden, the ground growing ever whiter with snow. The The stretch between Meriden and Hartford is where speeds start to truly pick up. The tracks here are rated for a top speed of 110 miles per hour, the fastest allowable speed for corridors without grade separation and dedicated fencing. Our train only hits 100 miles an hour on this first segment up to Berlin, the snow wisping away and the outwash generated by our locomotive. Exiting Berlin, our engineer finally puts the pedal to the metal, bringing us up to 110 miles an hour through the Hartford suburbs. I'll be perfectly honest, I wasn't expecting the Hartford line to be rated for 110, so when we reached 80 and kept climbing, I was quite surprised. If only Amtrak would apply this same treatment to its other high-frequency lines. The tracks into downtown Hartford run parallel to the CT Fast Track busway, one of Hartford's arterial transit routes. Our stop was fast approaching, and our conductors came on over the intercom to let us know that we would be arriving in a few minutes. They asked, as they had at every other stop, for all disembarking passengers to make their way to the ends of the cars now to facilitate a quicker stop. The busway splits away as our tracks cross the Asylum Street Bridge onto the elevated tracks of Hartford Union Station. The doors open and our line of disembarking passengers march off the train and into Hartford. The final few passengers make their way on board and train 460 departs towards Springfield. Our train disappears around the corner under I-84, leaving us alone with the snow in Hartford's Union Station. With our train now gone, we can make our way down the platform and into the station, where we'll bring today's video to a close. If you're new around here, then why not hit that subscribe button? It's totally free and it really helps support the channel. And hit that bell icon while you're down there to be notified whenever a new video goes live. As always, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my patrons and channel members. Making videos takes a huge effort, and I wouldn't be able to do it without your support. If you too want to help support the channel in more ways than one, then head on over to the links in the top right or in the description below. But anyways, that's all I have for today. Thanks for riding with me, and I'll see you in the next one.